Shafted in Africa, Charles.
Once again, how are you, Jason?
Well, sometimes you come up with movies that I've never even heard of before.
I thought you were in this movie.
Yeah, I know about Shaft, but I was unaware of, Shafted in Africa, which is this variant, I guess, maybe a sequel to the original Shaft film. We're going to find out today about who got shafted in Africa. The poster features your favorite ex-president, Charles.
I know, and it figures that his shaft is crooked.
Yeah, we've heard about that.
Well, it is. Look at the picture.
Yeah, so he's doing the shafting, but this is another one of these, really extensive ones that's got a whole cast of characters involved there.
The art department has once again outdone itself. I mean, that's the best that Hillary Clinton has never looked in a bikini. I mean, that's that's really something else. And then, of course, the great Sphinx, Obama, and the two schmucks, Page and Strzok. Yeah. And by the way, on the subject of Page and Strzok, I think there needs to be a deep dive into just how many counterintelligence operations the two of them were involved in. I don't think it's simply Crossfire Hurricane and simply Hillary's thing. I think there are lots of messing about that the two of them are involved in. And I bet you if you pull on those strings hard, which I hope people are doing, although we'll talk about it in a few minutes.
They're pulling on something.
They are.
I don't know what they were doing.
Too busy cheating on their respective spouses and themselves and the country and whatever. And of course you have intermixed in there, you've got Michelle Obama. You got, so that crook. I mean, on Eric Holder.
Oh, I forgot Angel Urena.
That's right. Well, he's with us in spirit.
Yeah.
Right. But Eric Holder, to say anything about really any matter, let alone, at one point he was thinking about running for president. Maybe that'll come yet at the broker convention. But here's a guy who, in the middle of the Obama presidency, when he was held in contempt by Congress, he said that I view this as a badge of honor. And when asked what his role was, he said that as Attorney General, he was to be President Obama's wingman. That's okay with the mainstream press when Obama's president, but if Donald Trump ventures an opinion about anything having to do with the law, or anything, which has a legal component, impeach him, impeach Barr, impeach Trump. The double standard is just amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, Eric Holder's a terrible guy. We got Comey back there working on the chain gang. Call it wishful thinking, but
yeah, exactly.
And
Epstein with a dark complexioned lady. Now, I think in real life, Epstein only chased white women, I think. Is what we've found so far.
It's possible.
But,
I don't know.
But in hell where he may be now. And there, of course, you have McCabe, who is certainly no sensei or no karate kid.
Well, I have him there because he's achieved something of a legal jiu-jitsu victory by... I was disgusted, Charles, by this announcement that the DOJ will not be prosecuting McCabe. I don't...
Well, we're going to cover that in two stories in the body of the slides. Don't be disgusted.
Two shakes of a president's shaft?
Yeah, don't be disgusted. Yet.
Don't be disgusted.
Please.
Okay. Well,
but to the art department, another tour de force, proving that we can reach, the art department can reach way back into the sands of time. This is, 47 years ago, this movie, I think, 1973.
That would make it as old as me.
I didn't bring that up.
Yeah, I never saw... There's a new Shaft that came out with Samuel Jackson.
Yes, just not the same.
Well,
but anyway, this is what we're going to do today is probably going to, I hope, shock some people. But for the longest time, really for their entire adult lives, the Clintons have hid themselves. When they get into trouble, they hide behind the skirts and the pants of black women and men. And they, for example, when he was president and he got in trouble, who was there to lie and steal stuff and get it away from the other any inquiring eyes? Well, of course, it was Cheryl Mills, it was Maggie Williams, it was Betty Curry, it was Vernon Jordan's wife. I mean, the Clintons just have this amazing ability to rely on African American people to sweep up their messes and put those people who are sweeping up messes in incredibly compromised positions. Because at the end of the game, as the curtain is now going to fall on them, the people who protected the Clintons are going to have a very simple choice: go to jail with them, or turn on them. And it just doesn't do the project of trying to open up this country and the larger world to a place where we are not discriminating on the basis of anything, gender, skin color, religion, race, whatever. It doesn't do much for that project to watch as the Clintons just shamelessly exploit these people, as they have been inside this country, in Arkansas, and now across the continent of Africa and other places where there are lots of dark-skinned people, in India and Papua New Guinea and Haiti, you name it. Those are places where the Clintons concoct some cockamamie story
Cockamamie story.
Yeah, as it were.
I've never been to the continent of Arkansas.
The continent, yeah, the dark continent of Arkansas. But they come up with some crazy story, and of course the world then opens up its collective wallet and sends all kinds of money towards this cockamamie story. And what do the Clintons do? They divert, which is another way of saying steal, tens of billions, maybe hundreds of billions of dollars in league with crooked actors around the world. This is what's been going on since well before Bill began his post-presidency on the 20th of January 2001, and it continues to this day. But we're going to reveal, thanks to some dogged investigative work of our colleague Michael Smith and his research team, we have got a very powerful story to tell about a court decision that the Clintons have been doing their level best to try to hide and have done so unsuccessfully, that just blows up any argument that the Clintons are people who are actually done, on balance, more good than harm. And here you have a picture of Michael Smith. We had him on the line from a remote place, we're not going to say exactly where, in Asia, where unfortunately the internets were having a conniption fit. So we weren't able to have the type of sound that we needed to let Michael tell this detailed tale. So we're only going to tell a portion of it today. We're going to have him back on, subject to his schedule, once he gets to a place where there is really strong internet. Now, this particular story that Jason has up here recounts something that happened in 2011.
What does it have to do with Petra Nemcova? Why does he have this?
Because Petra Nemcova has a charity that after she lost a portion of her leg, I think.
Right, in the tsunami or
in the
something.
tsunami, she came back and she set this charity up and wanted to get Bill Clinton to speak at it. And so Bill said he would, but he demanded a $500,000 speech payment.
Wow.
Which they got from this tiny little charity, and that's what this story is all about. We have a link to a large number of stories that Michael did in 2016, and we're going to be talking about many of them as we get into the broadcast. But so my apologies to Michael that we just couldn't make the technology work. We wish him well, and we hope he gets to a place with a stronger connection soon, and whenever his schedule permits. We want him back on to tell us more about the story that we're going to bring to you from a very surprising place.
I think it's actually Elon Musk who should be apologizing to Michael Smith, because he has not launched his array of satellites fast enough to provide internet all over the world.
Yeah, we often rely on Elon Musk.
Yeah, I know you don't rely on Elon Musk for much. Apparently he's got some DJ, like some kind of, I don't know, he released an album or a single or a...
I don't know
what's going on there with our buddy Elon Musk. But with that, Charles, we should remind people that we are now, in addition to the show going out on YouTube, although it's been hindered by malicious strikes from social engineers. We don't have live streaming on the Jason Goodman YouTube channel, so if people are watching this, you're seeing a playback version on the Jason Goodman channel. You can subscribe to Crowdsource The Truth 2 to get all of the live streams. We're also, Charles, we're now live streaming on Spreaker, and the videos soon after that will be on iTunes podcasts. So something people have been asking for 3 years almost, an audio-only version. I've been working on a lot of things to try to improve the audio quality. People are seeing some of the bumps in the road on the way to that, but there's a lot of upgrades I've been doing here in the studio. Later this week, we should have fiber optic coming in, so
Wow.
I'm making a real focus on trying to eliminate some of the technical problems that have dogged us. If people are listening on iTunes or on Spreaker or Spotify or any of the audio-only channels that we're on, they can watch the videos and become sponsors of the show by going to subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth.
Very good, Jason. Well, maybe we should jump into the slides because today we have quite a few to go through.
Okay.
So, Bill Clinton, I hope you won't take any justified guff for that poster because I think it's a great one. But Bill Clinton shamelessly, while and after being president, talked about himself being the first black president, which I think is, he
Stupid.
gets away with that, but Rachel Dolezal has to go to get whatever happened to her for claiming that she identified as being black when she was white. But anyway, this is a family of unrepentant grifters. Not just Bill, not just Hillary, but I think, sad to say, and we gave her a chance. We gave her a fair chance, Chelsea Clinton. We implored her to look hard at the facts and then to confront her parents and to straighten out that foundation. But she chose not to do that. In fact, Jason, she wrote, I think, a children's book recently called She Persisted, or it was like, and then she persisted or something like that. It was either Chelsea wrote it or Chelsea and Hillary together wrote it. And they went on a stupid ass book tour recently, they went all over the place, and they went to the UK and somebody said, well, how come you didn't put Margaret Thatcher in as an example? Yeah, She Persisted. It was Chelsea Clinton. And I guess this is American women, but we are now going to, today, we're going to talk about a case that is indefensible if you are any member of the Clinton family. We've gone around, Hillary saying, vote for me, I'm a woman, I want to be the first American president who's female. Chelsea's there, I'm a woman. Bill's, I don't know what he is, he doesn't know what he is. But they get reflexively, and in fact, I met the woman many years later. In 2016, I met the in quotes, journalist who made news during the impeachment 22 years ago when she said that, for all the good that Bill Clinton has done for women, she would happily give him a Monica. And this
Who said that?
This journalist, I forget her name, but I met her in 2016 at an event where I think Roger Stone was speaking. And, for all their talk of being pro-feminist, advancing women's rights, we're going to tell you a story today, courtesy of Michael Smith and his research team, that is so disgusting that the Clintons did. It is almost approaches what Bill Clinton did to Juanita Broaddrick. And so if we could get back into those slides, we apologize again that we say today we had with special returning guest Michael Smith in the title, but as he can't physically be on the thing, we just say with key input from him. And one of the things that I've been sort of waiting to do here in this complex tale that we've been telling is to get into the places we need to be from where the Clintons can never emerge. And that is the place in my first set of jobs, buying and selling companies as agent, then as principal. When you get involved in international transactions and you have to contend with laws of a city and state and country, say New York City, state, and United States of America, and then laws of multiple foreign jurisdictions, you can find yourself in a place where it is impossible to escape without committing one sort of crime or another, particularly if the nations have different approaches to a potential issue. Most nations around the world today, and while the Clintons began to expand their crooked foundation from Little Rock in 2001 and 2, most nations in the places where the Clintons have been operating this crooked set of charities do not allow you to lie under oath, to get a benefit through deception, a bank loan or some other benefit.
Are there places that allow you to do that?
Probably.
Other than the United States.
Somalia, Washington, D.C., where it occurs. Operating, a fake charity, bribing public officials, or discriminating. These are all things that you can't really do. And so, of course, when it comes time to make your annual reports to the taxing authorities in the states and federal states and the U.S. and then the different nations around the world, if you've committed a whole bunch of crimes, what you try to do is you try to hire a law firm to tell you. You don't tell the law firm the whole truth about your situation, but you get that law firm to issue a report publicly, or at least to characterize a report saying, well, we've been into the Clinton Foundation, we don't find anything particularly wrong with it, which is what Simpson Thatcher did in 2011 and 12. So we're going to tell you about about what was going on in 2011 and 12 in part, that either Simpson Thatcher missed because they chose to miss it, or that Simpson Thatcher knew about and nonetheless allowed their name to be bandied about by the Clintons in the 2011, early 2012 timeframe because the leadership of Simpson Thatcher decided perhaps that it was of overwhelming importance to keep Barack Obama and Democrats in power. So with that tease, why don't we jump to the next one?
I would like to thank Mary Lynn for using Super Chat early. She's with us from Obama land, which I guess is either Chicago or hell.
Well, I hope she's not in hell.
Yeah, good point. But
thank you very much. So for the new viewers, and just to refresh people's recollection, what we try to do together, Jason and I, with this broadcast and now this audio, is to do something that you were not easily able to do up until this technology and Jason's expertise.
Still not easy.
And still exactly not very easy. It's impossible for me. So what we are doing here is laying out facets, each broadcast twice a week now, of this enormous set of frauds that stretches all over the planet in a way that I believe and we believe has made it impossible for the authorities to overlook this. I mean, this is our 209th broadcast. They average about 2 hours in length. With each broadcast, we have a slide presentation, which you could pull down. Jason, maybe you can show folks how to do that.
You've heard about real time and just in time, right, Charles?
Yes, sir.
This is just in time. So here we go. Yes, the broadcasts have all been assembled into this handy dandy playlist, and I've been making some other playlists for other shows so that people can easily navigate to all of the broadcasts that we've done. You're right, Charles. Today is our 209th broadcast. I was just reading how our decision to use the film Parasite as the basis for the most recent show has boosted the box office ticket sales for the original movie. It probably had nothing to do with them winning an Oscar, but for most of the videos, Charles, there's this description below the video, and if you click on the words "show more," which is maybe not obvious to some people that they should be clicked on, it will reveal the links to the sponsorship opportunities as well as this link that says download Charles's presentation. And when you click on that, it's going to bring you to the PDF for that particular show. People have asked us to put these all in one location. I mean, at this point, that's going to be like, cherry picking 200 little files, which is difficult for me to do. But as people find the video that they are interested in, you can download the PDF presentation so you can follow along on your own computer, print it out, send it to friends, bring it to a town hall meeting, printed on huge cardstock and walk around, like a sandwich board, screaming about the injustice that is happening everywhere. These are all just suggestions. People can really do whatever they want, but that playlist is there for those who want to take advantage of it.
Yeah, and people who want to reach out with constructive suggestions can do so on my website, and also could tweet out to me or to Jason. There's as well the Twitter address for Michael Smith, who's very good both with his site and with his Twitter account. I encourage you to follow Jason and me and of course Michael Smith if you're not already doing that.
Yes, Twitter. I find that insulting people like Adam Schiff and some major heroes of the left is increasing the Twitter following. So that's
good.
Perhaps the best technological advance in modern day terms for insulting people is Twitter.
Yeah, I've been stone cold flat at 37.2 for a long time.
Now wait a minute. What's this about palladium?
Oh yeah, this is something I just happened to notice after I finished the slides while I was waiting to start this broadcast. There's a long thread here that somebody named Rick Grimes, who I think follows Michael Smith, has. If you hit show this thread, it's quite a few.
Now Australia's saying listen fat?
That's the Department of Foreign something or other.
The Department of Listen Fat.
Department of Fat. Listen Fat.
Well, it's interesting because was it palladium or polonium?
Polonium was the problem.
Polonium. Yeah. Well, polonium is the poison, but I think palladium is the element that Zach Voorhees, the Google whistleblower, was telling us has gone up in value tremendously because apparently Google has some cold fusion project that they're working on, and they've suppressed all searches for other scientists doing anything with cold fusion. Force you to look at their thing. Yeah, and palladium prices have gone up. So not investment advice, Charles, but good. Google's up to something. I don't know what.
All right. Good. So with that, why don't we get into some of the latest developments. Jason, you brought up this issue of McCabe being let off the hook. And in the first two links here, Trey Gowdy goes through the fact that, what he was under investigation, or what he was referred to, were issues in respect of an administrative proceeding that would have been considered by a Washington, D.C. jury. And it was a narrow set of issues. Yes, you can make the case, as you do and others do, that if you're going to go after Papadopoulos, if you're going to go after Flynn, if you're going to go after Stone for similar things, how come this McCabe schmuck gets off the hook?
Right.
And what Gowdy, and again, he's the former representative from Boeing, South Carolina.
Exactly.
What he was pointing out is this does not mean he's completely off the hook. And I've got to believe, from what I know, remember that what he was under investigation for in the Horowitz-related thing was McCabe's potentially illegal leaking of information concerning the status of the Clinton Foundation investigation in late October 2016. So I've got to believe that, well, I'll put it differently. If Barr's Justice Department studies all the things that they should have studied, including all these podcasts and many other things that we've done, and comes back and says there's nothing to this Clinton Foundation story, then I personally will flip on Trump. I don't know who the nominee would be, but I mean that's just outrageous if they would reach that decision. I don't think that can be the place they're in right now. That said, we haven't been able to go down and visit McCabe in the cell that he belongs in, but we could take some solace in this thing that should go in the coffee table book as well.
Yeah, this is, I don't know. I feel like we're getting buttered up for the nothing's going to happen portion of the program.
Clarice Feldman also, Clarice Feldman is a former Justice Department, senior Justice Department official, and she takes you through a whole, somebody I really encourage you to read carefully. When I get into, when I start considering difficult to fathom legal matters, I often take solace in what Clarice has to say, and she echoes what Gowdy is saying, that by no means is McCabe off the hook, completely off the hook by the recent decision, troubling as that recent decision may seem. There's a lot to this story here. People can read it at their convenience, and in general, I would encourage people to follow Clarice Feldman. She's fantastic.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting article. She goes into Roger Stone and stuff, so dealing with a lot of it there.
Now, this is a Chuck Ross story in the Daily Caller saying that the one potential impact of...
Sorry, Charles, real quick. Andrew brings up an excellent point via Super Chat. Why try McCabe for lying when he can be tried for treason?
Right.
So you're on that?
Absolutely. We'll get to it in a second. I think that, if you're doing this right, and I hope Barr and others are in fact doing this right, we're talking here about real high crimes and misdemeanors. We're talking about treason, corruption, bribery, involving multiple foreign presidents, multiple high government officials, multiple billionaires, multiple foreign government officials. We're talking about a gigantic set of scandals, far bigger than Teapot Dome or Tammany Hall or anything in American history. In fact, the crimes, in my mind, are so big that you would have to probably rewrite history. You have to go, rewrite, going back to 88 and 89, you have to go back and tear up all the books that have been written and say, no, wait a minute. That's not what was really going on, what's taught in school. What was really going on is H.W. Bush and then Clinton and then W. Bush. 1989, 1989.
I think you said 1889.
No, 1989.
Okay. Yeah. Let's just go way, way back. This is so bad. We're changing history. Yeah. They have to invent a time machine to go back and slap Andrew McCabe the second he's born.
No, the telling of history, not history itself.
Sorry.
So Lisa Page, this is the Daily Caller piece, is a piece which alleges that one consequence of letting McCabe off the hook is that people may then turn the heat more highly up into Lisa Page. Now, I remember hearing, and I don't know if this is true or not, that Lisa Page, when she had a falling out with her husband because she was sleeping with Peter Strzok, was for a time, I believe we were told, living with the McCabes, which is, I mean, that's normal.
Nothing
right?
weird about that.
That's normal, right?
Yeah.
I think I got my top lawyer who's cheating on her spouse with the head of my counterintelligence division who's cheating on his spouse with this person. Why don't we all just meet in my house with my wife?
Kids.
And kids, we can all go to
They should invite Hunter Biden and his sister-in-law over.
Exactly, and then we can have one big, invite the
Jeffrey
Podestas
Epstein
over.
to tape it.
Yeah, invite the Podestas over for some pizza.
What the hell is this? She's posting, this is from the other day, she's toasting McCabe for, oh my God.
Yeah.
This woman has no shame.
Yeah, look at her Twitter handle, NatSec Lisa.
National Security.
I think she meant Nutsack Lisa.
How come when I say stuff like that, it's deemed inappropriate for being said? This is just brazen. I think they should put them all in jail.
And what's this guy over here? Who's that?
Which guy? Oh, I don't know. Who is that?
Can't be a picture of her husband.
That's just somebody in the background of the restaurant where they are. The question is, who's taking this picture of her? Is the husband still hanging out with her?
I doubt it.
I mean, this is on Valentine's Day, and what does her shirt say? It says, "Don't being quiet. I am done being quiet."
Yeah. Meant to be. I think
She's a proud adulteress, Charles.
Yeah, she's done.
She's done is right. I've had it with her.
Anyway, so we have a story that came out, I think, yesterday. Oh, sorry, this story here about the fourth story. I said that they better be investigating something a lot bigger than whether the narrow contours of Lisa Page and Strzok and whatever. The big question in my mind, and we've been hammering this. You did the so far first and only animation of us up in Chappaqua. But the big story here, the obvious story that nobody has wanted to address is as a friend of mine in the South used to say, who in the fuck authorized the toilet bowl server system? I mean,
Hillary did.
No, she couldn't authorize that herself. Somebody had to above her.
Had no authorization. She just did it.
Well, no, but I mean, they were sending emails back and forth to Barack Obama to his private email account. Now, who was looking at that? I mean, either nobody across the 17 agencies knew about it, or everybody knew about it. And why did they allow this to stay the way in which all this was handled for the 8 years of Obama's presidency? And for the period of time after Hillary Clinton left Foggy Bottom, why did they allow Hillary Clinton to retain possession of all of the emails, which included emails way higher than the class, top secret special access protocol emails? How the hell was she allowed to do all that, and who signed off on that? Because my understanding, I never sought a security clearance, don't want a security clearance, but what I'm told when I read about it is that it's not like nobody checks, when this top secret stuff is supposed to be in a skiff. Instead, it's, in Bill Clinton's used underwear for all we know. I mean, he's donating to charity.
I don't think he saves any of that. The E in underwear stands for evidence if you're Bill Clinton.
That's right. But I mean, that's the really big story is how did we go through a process from election day in 2008 when Barack Obama became president-elect through the day that he reported for duty, not spelled Doody, on January 20th.
We are so high level on this show.
On January 20th, 2009. Who was calling the shots? I mean, my understanding is that the people who consider whether or not you should get security clearances really do put you through the ringer. I mean, you have to provide all sorts of information about your background. People get interviewed. How in the hell did the Obama administration get away with doing this, and how many people are implicated in letting America's highest, most secrets that should have been kept closely under control? Who are the people who allowed our security system to be so porous that it likely was hacked by multiple foreign allies as well as foreign enemies? And what's this?
Well, this is Michael McMahon from the FBI, who I interviewed maybe a year or two ago. And, well, he's left the FBI because he was a real whistleblower who said that there were serious problems with the vetting of security clearances. And unlike super secret caramello candy whistleblowers, this guy got drummed out of the FBI, and they said, we don't care about improperly vetting people. We want to improperly vet people. You're fired.
Yeah,
so
you're fired.
Maybe that answers how it happened.
All right. So then the story has been circulating that Mike Bloomberg, who is very rich, is entertaining the idea that Hillary might be his vice president. I mean, that's only if Bloomberg LP is going into the business of assisted suicides.
I was going to say he better call his doctor and make sure he's not planning to have a heart attack on January 21st, 2001.
That's right, the Kevorkian Initiative. I mean, this is absurd, and it's absurd on so many levels. I mean, the Democratic Party has a gigantic problem, which could be cured by having the Bernie wing leave the Democratic Party to form a new party that would then destroy the Democratic Party by that split. But I mean, the notion that you're going to unify, you're going to satisfy the Bernie bros and sisses by selecting somebody who spent almost twice as much money as Donald Trump in 2016, when Donald Trump had no political credentials whatsoever, is you're going to select that person to be your vice president with all the history of the Clintons, at Bloomberg's age, given his money, given her manifest tendency of just putting a knife in anything that moves that gets in its way, and that's the nice thing she does, is just insanity. So it has to be a trial balloon that was not set out there by by Bloomberg, but more likely by Hillary. And I would just say, for the record now, in the same way that I told Steve Bannon in 2015 in March that Hillary Clinton will never be president of the United States because of the situation of the Clinton Foundation, I will say on air right now to you, Jason, and to the viewership, there's no way that this team or that Mike Bloomberg ends up being president of the United States, given what Mike Bloomberg has gotten into with C40 large cities supposed charity involving the non-existent Clinton Climate Initiative, something we've done shows about, something that I have warned Mike Bloomberg's financial people that they have a serious problem and they better correct it or try to correct it, and they haven't bothered to do so. So there's no way this team gets across the line. But it is interesting to see the amount of attention that this announcement got. And then also to see, we left it off because I just think, the stories will take care of themselves. The number of negative stories that accidentally on purpose made it into the Washington Post. Some guy named Kranish, Kranish.
Negative about Bloomberg?
Yeah, it's a long, Bloomberg coming up the ranks was like, there's one thing, and I'll just characterize the story. There was one employee who claims that she got pregnant and it was a problem. Bloomberg thought it was a problem, but he said, "Oh, it's simple, just kill it."
Woo.
That's it. That's another complaint.
The woman or the baby?
The baby. But and then there's a lot of coming up the ranks when he was.
Did he really say that?
Oh yeah, there's a long litany of stuff that he said that just given the Me Too movement and given the good place, frankly, that the United States is in today in 2020, there's no way that he makes it all the way across the line in November. But it'll be fun to listen. It'll be fun to watch the debate coming up. You'll see how well he does on the debate stage, and I don't think he's going to do all that well.
I meant to go to the gay ice cream place yesterday. I was down over near there, and I totally forgot. I don't know. I doubt it's better than Ben and Jerry's. They're pretty good.
Yeah, if you want to be mayor of New York City, then a guy like Mike Bloomberg, who is from Massachusetts, but likes to think that he's a New Yorker, he can make it work. And he did make it work. And there was a time when he was mayor that things were going fine under his leadership. But he did many innovative things in other than C40 large city stuff. He's done pretty well with charity, very well. But this latest announcement is absolutely crazy. And then in contrast, we have the Trump team. I don't know, Jason, you saw this, I think, but this Breitbart story, I think you had it up elsewhere when we were talking this thing. This is hilarious.
What was this about?
This is Donald Trump's campaign sent fake Valentines out to each of the other Democrats.
Oh, that's pretty good. I like it.
My love for you burns hotter than the fossil fuel in my private jet.
That's so funny.
But you go down them, he's got them on all of them.
Oh, man. So he put these on Twitter or what?
I don't know how he got them out there, but Elizabeth
My
Warren.
selfies are fake. When I raise taxes, it's your money I'll take. That's great. I'm falling for you faster than my sinking poll number. There's the Biden ships thing. You should have said something about his teeth falling out. The only thing worth more than your love is the money I raised in my wine cave.
That's a reference to him going out to Silicon Valley.
Yep. And Klobuchar, will you be the comb to my salad?
There's something about a comb and a salad and Klobuchar. I forget what it was.
I don't get it. Like the box behind my podium. Your love lifts me to new heights. That's pretty good. You got him on the podium there. Donald Trump is definitely one of the funniest presidents we've ever had.
It really.
See, and I think that it's like they're trying to kind of imitate his style, Charles, like trying to insult people and stuff. But if you're bad at it,
right.
Like they're on Twitter trying to insult people, and it's just like not working at all.
Yeah. And then we have the the Bidens, I mean, the real news on the Bidens is, and they're saying, and I don't think this link says it, but the real problem with the Bidens is Hunter's involvement with John Kerry's, I guess it's his stepson, in China. This is a story about Biden's brother, but the stories just go on and on and on. And all this guy can do, Joe, is to let various family members cash in on these years and decades of public service. I mean, it's just, it's disgusting. And to be fair, or attempt to be fair to Biden, the Bush family's no better. I mean, they've been doing that for generations, going back to H.W.'s father, Prescott, if not earlier.
Right, Harrimans and
they go in there and they talk about public service, and on this note, I'll just take a brief digression. There is a straight up idiot who has a book out, and I'm not going to mention the person's name, but it's getting a lot of press, going back and trying to say that George Washington was a bounder and nothing about George Washington's.
What's a bounder?
Was a scoundrel, and that his whole life story is ridiculous. And this is a female, quote, historian who was an idiot. I mean, you could look at multiple lots of source material. Try studying a little bit of English history. Try going back into history and understanding that when we were not a country, and you rose up against the king, and you got caught. The penalty for that was that you would be put to death brutally, that all your family members would not be able to inherit any property. And so it was a different sort of thing back then to take on the king, which George Washington did do as a wealthy person with a lot to lose and an extended family with a lot to lose. So to suggest that he was just, like, let's say, Hillary Clinton or these other public servants of today, that all they do is they grift as long as they can, and they get the corrupt members of the media and the publishing arms to give them fancy book deals and get them in fancy movie opportunities so they can steal more money. I mean, it was a very different time back then.
Yeah.
And then we have the spectacle of Harvey Weinstein. I don't know. I think I've seen that guy around New York City, but now what he's doing in the various court appearances, he's showing up with a walker, with his clothes theatrically, askew, so he comes across. He's trying to play the doddering old fool who couldn't possibly be guilty of the crimes that he's, that are alleged against him. That guy really needs to burn in hell after he gets a fair trial.
Yeah. Well, after the fair trial, exactly. It's almost like he has the same legal consultant, trial consultant as Robert Mueller.
Right, and the thing about it as well, Hillary, when we think about the degree to which the Clintons were involved with Weinstein, it's not simply tracing out the contributions or the narrow involvement of A. Clinton with the Weinstein. It's that Weinstein's ties through Hollywood were pressured to give money to the Clintons. And when they got in trouble, or when they tried to, attack Weinstein or whatever, the Clintons were employed to try to tamp down the pressure. And so it's a lot more disgusting, as this fellow Ronan Farrow is not a conservative person.
What's he doing at the Clinton Foundation?
I don't know what he was doing there. Does it show?
He's also not Woody Allen's son. There's just no way. I mean, this kid looks exactly like a combination of Mia Farrow and Frank Sinatra. Yeah. Woody Allen looks like a schlep. This kid, looks like Sinatra.
I think did he go to Yale Law School and was a Rhodes Scholar or something?
I think he did do some of that sort of stuff. Because,
did he work at McKinsey?
Let's just take a quick look at Ronan Farrow. Why would he be digging up all this dirt on people if that were the case? He, New York City, Yale University, yes, he's got a Juris Doctorate from Yale, and he went to Magdalen College in Oxford, which is interesting because that's the same name as the college that, who's the crackhead guy?
Hunter?
No, the other crackhead. Stephen Halper is a fellow at Magdalen College in Cambridge, so I don't really know what that's all about. But let's see, he attended Bard's College. Where does it say if he's a Rhodes Scholar? Yeah, he is.
Was he a Rhodes Scholar?
Farrow began a Rhodes Scholarship at Magdalen College. Doesn't say he finished it. That's interesting. But what's up with this?
Magdalen is a famous college.
But why do they have one at Oxford and one at Cambridge?
I don't know.
That's what I mean. There's something going on there that we don't know about, Charles. All these secret societies, I don't trust them.
Yeah.
Anyway, Ronan Farrow.
So, then if we get into this Epstein stuff, there have been new revelations now about Prince Andrew and Epstein, and Prince Andrew and there's another scoundrel who has a big place down in the Bahamas. But on the whole question of Epstein, why is it that the long period from 2001 till Epstein signed his agreement, and whenever that was, 7 or 8, how come that long period is not under a day-by-day investigation of where was Epstein, where was Clinton, who were with Epstein?
Look who they've quoted in this article.
Yeah, this is the statement that I referred to. That's the original statement that the dancing banana head made. It's not so long ago.
July 8th, 2019. You know what's interesting about this guy?
Uh-oh.
Blocked.
Can't follow him.
Well, he's blocked me because I asked him what you've lied about, and rather than actually provide an answer, he'd rather hurl nonsense and block.
Uh-huh.
So what is this, the number of popular votes or something? Or number of jobs added under a U.S. president?
Yeah, but it's silly stuff.
And why doesn't he include how many jobs has President Trump added?
Yeah, and you have to look at this in context. You have to look at 15.9 million on what base for Reagan, 22.9 million on what base for Clinton, et cetera.
It's Urena math.
Exactly, nonsense math. And then we have this story here. I don't know, Jason, did you see this story by a lady who was decidedly anti-Trump, Carolyn Borisenko? And this is a long, long piece, but and it's well written, I think. It goes on and on and on, describing Carlin, I guess, Borisenko. And it explains that this is somebody who was anti-Trump. And she ended up reconsidering her position when a friend of hers was viciously attacked by the in-crowd of anti-Trumpers, not physically, but just persecuted. And she went back over a lot of things, and to save you the long read, the short version of the conclusion is she attended the Democrat rally where all the candidates were there in New Hampshire in the same arena that Trump held a rally in 2 days later, and her conclusion is, they have a can of whoop ass kicking coming.
It's quite an erudite author.
but I really do I do think it is the case, and I'm seeing anecdote. I mean, here we live, Jason and I here live and operate in a portion of the United States that will be last to get the message as to what Trump is really doing here, this Chelsea, Greenwich Village area in New York. And
but first to get to the gay ice cream place.
Yeah, pretty much. But and what they don't yet get is that when you listen to the complaints of the anti-Trump people, they just sit around and they're on full-on nasty, and it's for nasty Nancy. I mean, everything is wrong, nothing is right, the world's falling apart. And then there's another portion of the planet where you look and you're sitting there in Munich watching Germany fall apart. You're sitting there in Beijing. No, you're not. You're locked in your apartment because you're on lockdown and quarantine, and you can't go to Hong Kong, check on your apartment because that's a mess too. Or you're down in Brazil where everything's a panic. I mean, around the world.
Is Brazil in panic right now?
Sure, the Bolsonaro is shaking things up, and some people don't like what he's doing, and there's Brazil is always in a panic.
What happened to Glenn Greenwald? They threw him in jail.
They threw him in jail, exactly. But I mean, you look around the world, our market is actually in pretty good shape. Our country has its political divisions, but we're open. We're a free and open country. You can do what you want within reason. And New York, you can do whatever you want. You don't
but unless you mention the CIA whistleblower or want to put videos on YouTube.
No, in New York, you come here, as an illegal alien, you rape and kill a grandmother, and you get right back out in the street so you can go rob a bank.
That was terrible. That woman, I almost cried when she gave that speech. Where was that Trump had that woman come up whose grandmother at 92 had been raped and killed? It's difficult to listen to.
I know, it's outrageous. And, to sit here and say that...
Oh, he was speaking to the Border Patrol officers.
Right, down on the border, in Mexico. But anyway, if we could just finish on the slide there. The final point is we've made fun of the mayor from Baltimore many, many times. They're now seeking for her. This is somebody who abused a charity. Does that sound familiar? Failed to disclose personal income. Does that sound familiar? Who was a politician. Does that sound familiar? Who's has been convicted and is awaiting sentencing, and they're saying she should get 5 years for basically using a book she didn't write as a way of feathering her nest and not disclosing any of this and having foundations buy the book and all that. I mean, it's just disgusting behavior, but she could probably say, listen, I watched the Clintons do it for 20 years. Why can't I do it?
So the FBI is collecting all these books. They can't actually arrest anybody who's like destroying the country, but they have
we're on the book.
Healthy Holly books.
We're on the book patrol.
Yeah. That's like a Seinfeld episode right there as well. FBI is going to get those Healthy Holly books. Yeah. Get them out of there. That's a real risk to national security.
So, setting up the Michael Smith story. Now, sometimes things happen completely by chance. And this is completely by chance. So what happened was, when I switched from the Washington Times to Breitbart, it happened that one of the first stories I wrote about involved Nigeria, and it involved Boko Haram. And my feeling was that particularly Barack Obama, with his ties to Kenya and his interest in advancing economic development across Africa, under his presidency, he increased the flow of funds into Africa and the volume of projects and support for the poor countries in Africa. When I saw what was going on with Boko Haram, where this isn't simply a terrorist group, this is an anarchist terrorist group that doesn't want people in Nigeria or anyone else to have any benefits of the modern world.
Why is that?
It's just their view that modernity is bad, and so therefore anybody who's trying to live in the modern civilized world should be executed. And so this is a group that, for example, got a whole bunch of, I think like 800 or so Christian schoolgirls and captured them all, and was threatening to rape and kill all of them in the time frame. And my attitude was, if you're trying to unify America and heal some of the racial division, this is a country that should look back and say, if you see something that abhorrent happening in Africa, we should have risen up and done a lot more to expunge Boko Haram from the face of this earth. And we were doing it with ISIS. We should do the same thing with Boko Haram, and Barack Obama should have done more. Well, it turns out, and we don't have a link to the story here, that one of the reasons we didn't press as hard as we might have pressed on Boko Haram and on Nigeria and corruption there is, of course, the Clintons were all in feasting on their corrupt donors' money coming out from Mr. Shiguri, who is a Lebanese extraction Nigerian citizen who's made a practice of laundering money for the past dictators of Nigeria. So this happened, my story happened on the 24th of February 2015. Around about March 10th or so, Hillary Clinton was called to account for her toilet bowl server system. The news of that came out, I think, around March 4th or thereabouts, March 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 2015. And so she deigned to appear at the UN, New York, and got up and said, listen, I'm sorry I'm a bit late and I'm here to answer questions. Bill and I, as I say, Bill Clinton and I, and Bill Gates and Melinda Gates have been doing a lot of work together. And she was referring to something called the No Ceilings, the Full Participation Project. And basically, this is a project that's lifted from this report. If you hit that first link, there's a long report that the Clinton Foundation did, working with the Gates Foundation, studying data on the degree to which women are being supported around the world, and what could be done to have more progress for women. There's a lot of platitudes and slogans. These are the quotes that were lifted, one from Melinda, one from Hillary, one from Chelsea, that are on that slide. But there's a lot of data in here that was put together. And Hillary she had not yet announced that she was going to be president, but she was using this forum as
she was going to be president.
Yeah, I'm going to be president, by the way. It's not going to be election. I'm just going to be president. So if you go back into the slide, Jason, I had, right before this, and I didn't know I was going to get as involved in this Clinton Foundation stuff, go at the bottom. This is another story I did, I think it's March 4th. Yeah, March 4th, 2015, about this server. Yep. And then I was, not really followed at all by anybody on Facebook or Twitter, whatever. Here it shows no shares, no nothing. But as I refer, the title editor said, economics of political privilege finally takes center stage. And that's exactly what this is all about. People say, the Clintons say, I'm a servant, I'm a public servant. No, you're not. You're raping and pillaging in the name of being a public servant. And people are at the time, were just too dumb and too unwilling to stand up and be counted in the fight against what I refer to here as Clinton land. So this I didn't know at the time that I would have this great gem that we're going to talk about, courtesy of Michael Smith, involving Nigeria. So remember, this is March 2015. At the time I wrote these stories, I didn't know that the Clinton family had in November, when was it? In November of 2013, November 2nd, 2013, the Clinton family, or the people around the Clinton family, arranged to illegally amend the bylaws of the Clinton Foundation to attempt to create two classes of stock, two classes of director in the bylaws. Class A directors were the Clintons, who were going to be directors for their entire lives until they decided to resign or got sick, where they couldn't hold the office. And the Class A directors were given ironclad control of the Clinton Foundation at the board meetings when they were held, but more importantly, in between board meetings, with decisions they may have taken in between board meetings not being subject to review by anybody, which is impossible to do that lawfully, in that this entity is supposed to be a public charity, which cannot be controlled by a family. So at the time that she was yapping on about, answering questions about the server, this is also the time when she stood up and said, I think the first time she said, this has been part of a normal security review. All former U.S. Secretaries of State have had private email. There's nothing to see here. Don't look too hard at this. When in fact, the Inspector General of the intelligence community had begun an investigation into this just before, I believe, March 2015, that culminated in a referral to the FBI on July 6th, 2015, with the FBI opening a full-throated, in theory, investigation into Hillary Clinton and her staff mishandling classified information. So this is a woman who knows when she opens her mouth, she's lying or yawning, or both. That's what she does. So we go to the next page.
Full-throated investigation into Monica Lewinsky.
Yeah. So this is something I'm just going to take a few minutes on. I know some folks don't like numbers, but what we've done here is lay out some numbers on two poor countries, economically poor countries, and three large donor countries. So in Nigeria and Ethiopia, Jason, did you know that Nigeria has 214 million people in it?
I had no idea.
That's quite big. And Ethiopia has 108 million, also big. But look at the second line here. In Nigeria, more than a third of the people have no electricity.
Yikes.
In Ethiopia, half the people have no electricity. Whereas in the United States, United Kingdom, and Norway, everybody has electricity.
How could that be?
Because it's
somebody who has none.
Well, I don't know.
A couple people.
access to
What
electricity.
about those guys living outside the pizza place
They
on
go right.
23rd Street?
No, they go
You
right.
know what? You're right. They do have electricity
Right.
because I see them plugging in their phones and having
Right.
conference calls at those Wi-Fi stations now.
That's right. That's where they're probably trading on their phones. They're like day
They're having
trading.
like loud speakerphone conversations on that thing.
Right, exactly.
Very
So,
strange.
I mean, you would look at that and you'd say, now, wait a second, let's think. We could do a study. We could have, some PhD, dopey Chelsea Clinton could, with 12 other people, write some ridiculous PhD thesis comparing and contrasting all the aggravations that have stood in the way of people in Ethiopia and Nigeria and as compared to the U.S. Or they could say, well, wait a minute. If you want to have an advanced, big economy, deep market, you might want to have things to plug your charger into, like, outlets and electrical, utilities and lines strung. You want to have some of that stuff. If you've got a country as big as Nigeria, where a third of the people have no electricity, half of the people, and it seems to me that project number one is to figure out how to get reliable sources of electricity into these countries. In the case of Nigeria and Ethiopia, you're talking about countries that are hot. So it'd probably be better off, just as people weren't doing too well in California and Arizona and Florida before we had electricity. I mean, they went down there and stuff, but it wasn't great to live in those places if you didn't have air conditioning and the ability to keep food.
I read an article a while ago about how the Carrier air conditioning company changed the economy of the United States South.
Exactly. And then you look, let's look at this. I know, here's an area where maybe I might sign on to your coincidence as being very interesting. Let's look at rounding now. What percentage of the United States, the United Kingdom, and Norway seem to be urban? The United States, 83%, United Kingdom, 84%, Norway, 83%. These are all very different places. Somehow, each of them have approximately 83% of the population lives in cities.
Seems high for the United States.
No, it's high. It's right. The United States, absolutely right. And then Nigeria, though, 52%, and poor Ethiopia, 22%.
What's the biggest, Addis Ababa, or what's the biggest city?
Addis Ababa, yeah. But I mean, that you look at this and you say, no, maybe it's a fluke, but maybe when you get people gathering in cities, maybe it's just easier to administer a country where your people are in big cities. It's easier to have logistics accomplished. It's easier to have lots of things get done. And maybe, who's to say that urbanization is a horrible thing when these these countries, United States, United Kingdom, and Norway, are among the biggest givers of foreign assistance in the world because they're doing so well. Then you look at the population growth rates. Very high in Nigeria and Ethiopia. Actually, it seems almost the same there. But the United States, United Kingdom, and Norway are all very low, less than 1%. A shocking figure, in comparative figure here, look at the youth in Nigeria. Though Nigeria has 2/3 the population of the United States, it has 90 million people aged 0 through 14. The United States, in contrast, has 60 million. Ethiopia has 40 million. It's less than a third the size, and it has 2/3 the number of kids. The United Kingdom has only 12 million kids. Norway has only 1 million kids. And the relationship...
So they're leaving them all outside the bar.
Yeah, that's right, when the people are in the bar having a drink. So you look at the ratio of older people to young people. Older people have different health needs than younger people. So if you've got a medical system that's skewed in the United States, Norway, and the United Kingdom to take care of an aging population, you've got different sets of concerns than you might have if you're dealing with a population that doesn't have so many old people and has a lot of young kids that have their particular sets of concerns. So you have a skewed set of issues for healthcare needs. You've got in these countries, Nigeria is a gigantic country. UK is a big country, 200,000 square miles of arable, useful land, basically. Nigeria has 800,000. We're gigantic at 7 million. But then look at the road system that we have. Remember, Nigeria and Ethiopia, their populations are scattered to the wind. They don't live in cities. They have 60,000 kilometers of paved roads for 800,000 square kilometers of useful land. We have 4.3 million kilometers of paved road as contrasted to 7 million of arable land. I mean, that's incredible. Nigeria has 3,800 kilometers of railway. We have Amtrak and other railway. We have 293,000 kilometers of rail. Nigeria, big population, 200,000 people, they have 40 airports. We have 300,000 people, we've got 5,000 airports with paved runways, right? So then you look at consumption. That's the market for goods and services that the households buy. In Nigeria, it's 291 billion. Ethiopia, 48 million. United States, 13 trillion. Our market is gigantic, right? The skewing, the inequality of consumption. The rich in Nigeria, top 10%, 38% of consumption. We're 30. Norway, the socialist countries, 21%. But so you look at the bottom 90%, you divide it by the population of the bottom 90%, how much does the bottom 90% of the country consume in Nigeria? Less than $1,000 a year. Ethiopia, less than $400 a year. United States, the bottom 90%, not the millionaires and billionaires, the bottom 90% per capita, including babies, consume $31,000 per year. United Kingdom, 20. Norway's close to us. You look at that and you say, I mean, when we talk about inequality, whether you're Donald Trump or Jack B. Nimble, it doesn't matter. We're living as a result of decades, centuries of history. There's been a lot more money invested in the United States and the United Kingdom, in Norway. Gigantic sums of money have been invested to build the systems that we have. And Nigeria and Ethiopia, it's going to be virtually impossible to catch up, to narrow this gap, unless things aren't done radically differently. This cannot be. We cannot move forward as a society thinking that countries like Nigeria and Ethiopia, which are big countries, should have vibrant markets, should be hostage to the foreign aid bag, for the rest of the time. There has to be a way to think more creatively about what should these populations want to buy, want to invest in, and what should be invested to turn these countries so that they have a chance of winning. United States, prior to the freeway system, interstate system, our growth rate did not take off until those freeways were put in, and as you say, the air conditioning. There were certain structural things that happened that changed our growth trajectory. Chief among them is going to be having doctors around. I mean, you can say what you want. AOC is the magic economic doctor, and Bernie Sanders thinks he's got a prescription for everything. When you get sick...
Canada has it.
Right, exactly. When you get sick, you don't want to go, say, all right, I'm very sick, I don't know what's wrong with me, I think I'll go talk to an expert on sociology. You want to talk to a medical doctor, or in most cases, you really want to talk to as a veteran nurse, who will look at you quickly and say, report, you're going to be Michael Bloomberg's vice president or Hillary Clinton's
president.
President, exactly. You could go do that.
But Charles, Laura Butler's watching us on Periscope, and she says she's not sure what kind of point you're making because this isn't news.
It's certainly a lot of news to the people who would have us spend ever more money shipping tens of trillions of dollars to these countries with no oversight. I think it certainly is news. And then look at the bottom here at the number of doctors. Per 100,000 people in Nigeria, you got 38, Ethiopia 10, the United States 259. So, let's say you were to get... And Norway's probably got too many doctors, but per 100,000. But let's say you wanted to go from 10 up to 100 doctors per 100,000 people. You need a lot of doctors in Ethiopia and Nigeria.
Do they even have the educational infrastructure to...
Well, we have it. Why are Harvard and Yale and Columbia and the fancy-ass medical schools with their gigantic endowments, why aren't they churning out more doctors and saying, what? The good news is you can have medical education at a lower cost. The bad news is you're going to spend the first 20 years of your career in Ethiopia or in Nigeria or in other places like that. I mean, this, to me, I look at this and I say, Maybe we have too many doctors per 100,000 people in the United States, but I doubt it. And if we need 260, it doesn't make any sense that Ethiopia would only need 10. It just doesn't make sense. There's something wrong here.
Perhaps. Not enough in Ethiopia.
Right. So with that, if we go with that background, we're going to be talking today primarily about Nigeria. We have here, this is lifted from the Clinton Health Access website. They say they began operating in Nigeria in 2007. On their website, and they say that they're working on the treatment of Hep C, malaria, syphilis, and cervical cancer. Okay, now of those, I'm not sure which of those are infectious diseases. Syphilis is, malaria is, maybe Hep C is, but I don't think cervical cancer is.
Cervical cancer sounds to me like they're trying to get some traction for that, what's that vaccine?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
HPV vaccine,
Right.
which I saw a whole presentation on that. They're trying to make that mandatory for boys.
Yeah. But they brag in this, it's weird. They brag about their donors here. They talk about the Gates Foundation, the UK equivalent of our USAID, Unitaid we've talked about. Gavi is another thing like Unitaid based in Geneva. American Cancer Society, Canada, Global Oncology. The one thing that's not mentioned in here is Norway. And we know from information that we've gotten out of Norway that Norway took the decision to put a total of 63.6 million Norwegian crowns, and call that 10 million bucks roughly, into Nigeria, into the Clinton Health Access Initiative after 2011. So starting in 12, 13, and 14. Okay, 2011, 2010. Remember those years. We're now going to talk about those 2 years. Let's look at the next page.
It's not turning for some reason.
That's right. There we go. Now, remember the Clinton Foundation says they started in 2007 in Nigeria. This is a link to a nonprofit law blog that talks about all of these different laws that apply in Nigeria. Now, Nigeria is modeled under the UK system, so it's got an incredible body of precedent, both in Nigeria and then going back into UK law. And it talks about, I don't know what's happened to this page actually.
What's the matter?
We'll just lift it up a little bit, maybe. Okay, that's fine.
Is it separated into 2 pages?
Yeah, I just, up here it looks like it has a little bit. But anyway, the Clinton family has never fairly disclosed the degree to which it has derived personal benefits through the operation of all these charities. They've never disclosed that. It is illegal in Nigeria, of all places. It's illegal around the world to operate charity to get an edge, an advantage, whether it's financial or otherwise, for a family connected to the charity. And I would argue that the overarching purpose of the Clinton Foundations is to enrich the Clinton family and to burnish the Clinton brand, in theory, to enable it to campaign more aggressively for more political favors around the world so they can enrich themselves even further. So even in Nigeria, you're not allowed to use a charity for your personal benefit, but there's a lot of laws that do apply, including you can't discriminate against people using a charity. So moreover, people who are involved in a charity have to disclose any defects in their backgrounds with a charity. So for example, if you surrendered your law licenses for Arkansas Bar and the Supreme Court for lying under oath and obstructing justice, that's something that would disqualify you from operating a charity under UK law, depending on how recently you had done that. And even if you've done it in the past, it's arguable that while time may have passed, it's the kind of thing that a donor would not look favorably upon once they found out that it was in your record. So if we go to the next page. Okay, this CHI that was formed on September 29th, 2009, we showed you before what the authorized purposes of CHI are. It has, first of all, Bruce Lindsay, who was the lawyer who incorporated this, gave CHI the right to carry out a religious purpose under the control of the Clinton Foundation. Well, the Clinton Foundation is not allowed to engage in religious activities. So just that one thing gutted not only CHI,
Obama.
well, Obama did the same thing, but the Clinton Foundation, the parent company, has no right to pursue religious purposes. So this error alone, just that one thing, I would argue, destroyed not only Chai, but the Clinton Foundation parent by giving to a subsidiary a power that the parent did not have. Nonetheless, it said what this thing was supposed to do was exclusively charitable. You couldn't use it to make an argument why the Clintons should get another speech payment or a bigger book payment or another side deal because they deserve it because of all their charitable good work. You couldn't do any of that. And you're supposed to just help prevent the spread of infectious diseases, HIV, AIDS, malaria, and tuberculosis. I don't see cancer there. Cervical cancer is something that you can do in Chai. And then this idea that you would undertake other economic and social development activities in the subsidiary Chai under the control of the Clinton Foundation. You can't buy, Bruce Lindsay maybe he's just incredibly stupid, or he's just incredibly sloppy, or both. But if you could have a parent charity that had a specific set of purposes and then go through a process of just creating subsidiary after subsidiary underneath it, then the IRS would never have any control whatsoever over any charity, because you could authorize it for this purpose and create a subsidiary underneath it that could do something else. And this is just, on its face, deceptive behavior. In addition to this, it doesn't say in the Articles of Incorporation for this Chai how many directors the entity is going to have. And you can't have a disagreement between the articles and the bylaws. They have to agree on the same thing. And I think the reason they did it this way, as a guess, if you grilled them under oath Corsi style and Stone style, you discover the reason they were doing this is they were trying to hide the fact that Ira Magaziner and Bill Clinton, in the bylaws that they claimed or tried to claim they might have adopted at some point, were given lifetime titles, chairman and vice chairman and CEO. Bill and Magaziner were given lifetime offices and lifetime tenure on the board. You can't do that in a public charity. And moreover, Bruce Lindsay and his law partner who filed these incorporation papers had no authority to act as just two people on behalf of the board of the main Clinton Foundation. So on the face of it, this destroyed, on September 29th, 2009, Bruce Lindsay, Bill Clinton, and Ira Magaziner destroyed to smithereens the Clinton Foundation. If it hadn't been destroyed, it might have been destroyed earlier than that, but for certain they destroyed it on September 29th, 2009. So in addition, in this article of incorporation for this new Chai, note that it says no part of the net earnings of the corporation shall inure to the benefit of directors, officers, or any other private persons. In other words, what that means is you can't set up a Chai, put your dopey daughter on the board, and say, okay, dopey daughter, you've never been president of the United States, but we're nonetheless going to fly you around the world at the expense of this foundation, private or first class, fancy hotels. We're going to give you a chief of staff. We're going to do all this. You can't do any of that, especially for your daughter or for Ira Magaziner or anybody else in a senior capacity at Chai. So at no time, even today in 2020, the Clintons have not yet, nor has Magaziner, given us a full view into all the benefits that any member of the Clinton or Magaziner family may have derived through the operation of these Clinton charities. They never filed a tax return for this Chai from the 29th of September 2009 to the 31st of December 2009. And they've never actually had an audited balance sheet for either the parent or the subsidiary that really explains what happened on December 31st, 2009. Other than that, they've done most things right. I mean, this is just so far away from being acceptable. But this is in the first full year of Barack Obama's presidency. So we go to can't disturb that.
Yeah, scandal-free, Charles.
Exactly. So then let's think about how well they did on American, Nigerian, foreign, and state laws. So they claim they established Chai on the 29th of September. By the 16th of November, they file an annual report for the parent, which talks exhaustively about Clinton HIV/AIDS initiative. The 31st of December, they file an audit with the various authorities that shows that Clinton HIV/AIDS initiative was gigantic. It was the biggest piece of the Clinton Foundation. It certainly did exist, but on the Clinton Foundation version of those forms, these important schedules are missing. The same date that they file that for concerning 2008 audit, they file an application with the IRS for federal tax exemption for this new chai, claiming it had been organized and that it wasn't a successor to the old chai, which of course was not the case. We have found no evidence, though they said they had adopted bylaws by the 31st of December 2009, we found no evidence that the board did indeed adopt bylaws by the 31st of December 2009. After the fact, they claim that they transferred from the parent into this new entity, this chai, that we'll show you started operating in Nigeria. They claim they did that transaction on January 1st, 2009. Well, the problem with that is that the main employees in the U.S., and certainly the financial assets and liabilities of the American entity, were predominantly in two states, in New York and Massachusetts, states that they did not register to operate in until January 6, 2010. You can't do that. You can't, if you're going to have a transaction occur on January 1st, you have to be registered, validly organized on January 1st, which they were not. On the 3rd of February, somebody hand wrote in a date suggesting that bylaws were adopted to the Bahamas, saying under oath to the Bahamas, we adopted bylaws by the 3rd of February. On the basis of this defective application, of course, Lois Lerner says, okay, you can have your tax exemption, because we're too busy persecuting Tea Party conservatives. We're not going to really check your application. Besides Barack Obama, he's the man. Clinton's and Hillary's going to be president someday. We want to get on her good side. So they should not have given this authorization, but they did. So on the strength of that, this Clinton Health Access Initiative registers in Nigeria. Now, I don't know if this is going to work, Jason, but let's see if we hit that link. Will it show you? Sometimes when it's a dated link, it won't come up from a search. Yeah, you gotta hit I'm not a robot.
Not a robot.
Then try Clinton Health Access Initiative and see what happens. You got to put that in, yeah.
Oh, did you get it?
You got to hit the name, Clinton Health Access, spelled HEA, and then just hit I'm not a robot and then search. See, we're searching in Nigeria as we speak. What do you know? You see? So this thing registered in Nigeria. We haven't yet seen what undertakings they made in Nigeria about the status of this Clinton Health Access Initiative. But remember that they lied to the IRS to get the tax exemption. They were operating as Clinton HIV/AIDS Initiative in about 20 countries around the world. How they transferred the assets from Clinton Foundation to the Clinton Health Access Initiative, you have to look at that country by country by country to see the number of times people acting on behalf, supposedly, of the Clinton Foundation lied under oath across state and national boundaries. So if we go back in,
they love nothing more than that, Charles. Lying.
Yeah, they get BKD, the Tiger firm, to issue a false audit for the parent foundation on November 10th. They don't do an audit. BKD is to say does not do an audit for this Clinton Health Access Initiative for the short period September 29th, 2009 to December 31st, 2009, which they should have done. They did not do that. They wait until August 31st, 2011 to issue an audit that's completely wrong for this chai. And then people, I think, started asking questions and said, we better get a law firm to check this crap out. So they get a great law firm. I've told people before, when I was 18, I spent the summer working as a proofreader in Simpson Thacher. So I've known about that place for a long time. It is a fine firm with many great people in it. But evidently, they didn't do their homework because they started working on the 27th of October, 2011. On the 11th of November, we're going to tell you something happened in Nigeria. On the 15th of November, they submit another false tax return for the parent. On the 16th, one for this chai, false. And then on the 5th of December 2011, they create fake typewritten bylaws for chai, which are the first time that there's any sign the board has adopted anything formally, which are given to the government of New Zealand who in turn provided them in the equivalent of a Freedom of Information Act request to a New Zealand citizen who requested them. And I would remind everybody as we tell this story that the Prime Minister of New Zealand is a single mother, right? So she should care. She's the leader of New Zealand. She should care about a country giving money to a charity that would be aggressively, they're not raping employees, but they're emotionally scarring employees in this Nigerian charity, as we're about to tell you. So the Prime Minister of New Zealand should care, any fair-minded American should care, any fair-minded person in any donor country that is supporting Clinton Foundation or the Clinton Health Access Initiative should care about the story we're now going to tell you. You go to courtesy of Michael Smith. Okay? Now, if we hit this link, Jason, at the top. Yeah. All right, this is a story about a woman named Folarin Oreka Maia. And I don't know if I pronounced her name properly, but if I have not, I apologize. This is a woman, and we can go back into the story is told in depth in this excellent piece, and I'm sure Michael's going to bring it up to date. I've lifted certain passages, and I'm going to summarize what happened. This woman, remember I just went through this tale of woe that began in September 29th, 2009. And we showed you that the Clinton Health Access Initiative in Nigeria was registered in Nigeria on the 30th of March, 2010. Here we learn that an employee of the Clinton Health Access Initiative, a female employee, went into her boss with the happy news on Monday, the 14th of June, 2010. Hillary was just in her second year as Secretary of State, going around the world trying to promote women. This employee of a subsidiary of the Clinton Foundation says, hey, I joined you in Nigeria because you have a paid maternity leave, and I just want to let you know I'm pregnant. So on that day, within hours according to this thing, she consults with her boss, and her boss comes back and says, you're fired, right? And then they proceed to lie about it. And this woman, the story is told in great depth in the link above. This brave woman, who her first name is Folarin, I guess. She contacts the U.S. portion of the Clinton Health Act. She goes to the William J. Clinton Foundation, which is interesting because the actual change should have been Clinton Health Access Nigeria to Clinton Health Access America, and then up the ranks to the parent company, William J. Clinton Foundation. So exactly how she communicated will become very interesting, and who at each of these entities responded will also become interesting, because the Clinton Foundation is going to have to eventually defend the proposition that Clinton Health Access Initiative was indeed an independent entity. And I don't think they can do that. So she goes and gets a good lawyer and runs this right up the flagpole. And by the 11th of November 2011, in Nigeria, while Hillary Clinton is still Secretary of State.
The 11th of November?
Of 2011. 11, which is
something.
33.
Yes.
Runs it up the flagpole. And this decision, which is excerpted in Michael's story, and the full judgment, I don't know if you can hit that here there and see if it comes up. This is, I think, it may not work.
No.
Okay.
It's not a link.
It'll work in Michael's story. And maybe we should go into Michael's story and see, if you go to the very bottom, see if it works off his story. Yep, here. Yeah. Michael is the one who did all this hard work. And again, I wish you were here. Here it is, 24-page decision, goes on and on and on. And really the questions for people who are able to get into the Nigerian papers, what William J. Clinton Foundation are they talking about? Because there's one in the UK and there's one in the US. We stop here for a second. On November 11th, 2011, William J. Clinton Foundation did not have bylaws. The Clinton Health Access Initiative in the United States did not have a legitimate tax exemption and was not organized lawfully. And I don't know yet much about the incorporated trustees of Clinton Health Access Initiative Nigeria. Who were those people? That's something that the crowd really needs to get into. But here's a 24-page legal decision that, question is, did Simpson Thatcher look at this? They were on retainer. This is just exactly when they're interviewing people. We have that from prior shows that we've done, WikiLeaks Podesta. You can go and see exactly, they have their bill. We have their itemized bill day by day, hour by hour that says how much time they were spending on the project and what they were looking at. And I don't recall seeing anything about foreign matters in the Simpson-Thatcher bill. So was Simpson-Thatcher hired on a basis to just look at some of the problems and not get to the real nub of them? But you look at this, the story that a fresh employee in a new venture, when Hillary Clinton, Secretary of State, gets pregnant, tells her boss, I'm pregnant, I can't wait to go on maternity leave, but don't worry, I'll be back. And they instantly say, you're fired.
The only surprising aspect of this story, Charles, is that Bill Clinton was not the father.
Yeah, he doesn't roll that way, I'm told.
What? Sure he does. What about Danny Williams?
Oh, we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
We don't know.
I think he rolls that way.
But anyway, so this is really something, and I think you have to ask yourself, here's the judge, the picture of the judge here at the bottom. I mean, this is a distinguished individual. I mean, I wish the British did not foist, particularly on countries that are very, very hot and humid, the requirement of wearing these wigs and robes, etc. But this is a distinguished judge. He's a president of the National Industrial Court. He threw the living book at the Clinton Health Access Initiative in 2011, and Hillary said, well, nobody's ever going to find that. We'll hold on to my emails. Nobody's going to see any of this until after the campaign.
He's the president of the court.
Right, and so, but how many other matters like this have been swept or attempted to be swept under the rug? And how do you defend this as, the author of She Persisted? I mean, how does Chelsea Clinton, the mother of three, feel about a charity that she controlled, that going and taking a woman in Nigeria and treating her in this way? How does she feel about that? How does she explain that? How does she explain continuing to defend her rapist father?
She doesn't care about money, so none of this matters.
Right. So the final pages here, what we did, Michael has been really good, and it's a pity that he was not able to join us for the broadcast, but he's been really good in doing an enormous amount of work on the Clinton Foundation around the world. With his researcher, he's gone ahead and he's laid out a lot of information on Nigeria. I think they're going to start looking at other countries. But Jason, what we have here is a whole bunch of stories, 43 different stories that Michael Smith, and a link to each of them, did beginning on the 25th of April, 2015. Every single one of these, I hope they're all links. Maybe not. Did they not link?
Well, nope.
Oh, well.
These are supposed to be links?
Yeah.
So that might be a byproduct of how I fix certain problems in the document. I can try and replace
it. It's okay. If you go into Summary Michael Smith, you will discover the main story that has all of these different links. But these are the titles of every single one of these stories that he did. And look at these dates. Back into 2015, in July of 2016, Dopey James Comey clears Hillary. And then let's slowly go through here to the next page, Jason. You see look at the pace of these stories. Day after day after day, he's doing these stories. And you got to ask yourself, remember, Downer is out trying to trick Papadopoulos into all sorts of different things. What did Alexander Downer know about what Michael Smith was doing? What does Alexander Downer, the person who was the foreign minister of Australia, who signed an MOU with Bill Clinton on February 22nd, 2006 in Sydney, what diligence did he do into the Clinton Foundation at that point, which had no authority to fight HIV and AIDS? And here's Michael Smith tirelessly, story after story. And when you read these stories, I mean, they are very lengthy, well-researched stories. You go to the next page. 35 of these stories occurred prior to the so-called 60-day rule taking effect before the election in 2016. So they had 35 stories. How many of these stories did the FBI look at? They supposedly were investigating the Clinton Foundation. Later in 2018, Michael Smith approached the FBI. What has the FBI been doing since January of 2016, when in theory it was investigating the Clinton Foundation, and then afterwards, when Michael Smith brought all these stories to their attention. So if we go to
I was going to say probably trying to arrest Michael Smith, but then I realized he's not in the United States, so there's nothing they could do.
So he continued with some more stories, and then the Inspector General Horowitz, in his report that Horowitz's work ultimately led to some scrutiny of McCabe, concluded that with regard to the relationship between the FBI and journalists trying to make Hillary Clinton look good, the leaks were so hot and heavy they couldn't distinguish the leaker. They couldn't figure out who the leakers were because there's so much leaking going on out of the FBI trying to make Hillary look good.
Well, the task of trying to make Hillary Clinton look good is slightly less of an engineering challenge than traveling to Mars.
That's right.
So we're thinking it might happen by 2030,
right?
But it's unclear.
So again, without Michael Smith here, we weren't able to get into the very great detail that I'm sure he will get into, not only concerning what they were doing in Nigeria, but in many other countries, virtually any country where this Clinton Foundation has been operating outside the United States. It's been doing so illegally. And so the question is, what are all the particulars of each of the laws that the Clinton Foundation would have broken in all these different places? And what does it take? I mean, is what we have now in the United States a situation that if you really want to be a criminal thug for life, that you jump into the race and rig the primaries and try to rig the election to become the President of the United States? Because if you do that, then you're set for life. You're top of the crime pit, a crime syndicate. Is that what we want? Is that the precedent we want to have stand? Or before the election in this year in 2020, is Durham going to come forward? Is Barr going to come forward? Are we going to get rid of the FBI director? Are we going to see some real changes in the way in which justice is administered in the United States? Now, I don't have a link to this, but I know your buddy Kevin Shipp had a broadcast where he's now hopeful that indictments are, in his view, coming soon. I don't know if he's right or wrong, but I believe, given the volume and pace of complaints about Barr, Trump, and others, I believe the swamp is very nervous. We haven't heard much recently from John Solomon.
What happened to his car got broke into? What happened to that laptop, the evidence?
I don't know.
Well, is everything all right with John Solomon?
I don't know.
You haven't spoken to him?
I haven't recently, no.
Interesting. Well, we're going to have to see. I think that information that Kevin is sharing about indictments, I haven't spoken to him in a few days. He's made the intelligence assessment into a monthly show rather than a weekly show, so we're speaking a little bit less frequently, but I have a feeling those are his opinions based on what he's observing. I know he's not in direct communication with the CIA anymore, and obviously those guys are trying to knock Trump out of the box. Charles, we had some good comments during the presentation that I did not want to stop you to share, but Lana Leslie is telling us that, so you were talking about Boko Haram, and first of all, I think a lot of people, including myself, have no idea what goes on in Nigeria. There's a picture of Lagos, the capital city. Looks like a pretty normal city, right?
Parts of it, yeah.
Right. I mean, I don't know. I mean, again, you hear about Nigeria, you figure it's a bunch of people hanging out in tents. I mean, maybe that's ignorant.
No.
I mean, I don't know. Nobody knows anything about Nigeria. We hear this looks like a Mandarin Oriental hotel right here.
Oh yeah, I mean, remember Nigeria has a lot of oil, and so
they got money.
There are many Nigerian billionaires, and there are portions of. I haven't been to Nigeria. I've been to many places in Africa, but I'm sure there are portions of Nigeria that are beautiful.
Yeah, I don't know much about it, but what I wanted to point out to you is that according to Wikipedia, this is like the Boko Haram flag. It's the same as the ISIS flag. And then this is so weird to me, they have the old Boko Haram logo, which is like, I mean, come on, is a group like this sitting around designing logos? Are they having like, they have an art department for Boko Haram?
Yeah, you're sitting there. Think about, you're going to art school, and you're like,
oh, I got a great job at Boko Haram. I'm the lead designer.
When you're going to your parents, you're like, oh, so we put you through the Nigerian art school, a considerable sacrifice to your 6 brothers and sisters. What are your job prospects? Well, I'm trying to decide whether I should be art director for the Boko Haram or whether I should be art director for the Clinton Health Access Initiative. And I'm not sure
I think
which.
it's the same job, to tell you the truth, because I just don't believe that a terrorist organization is sitting around like, we need a better logo. This isn't working.
Well, we hear that the Clinton Health Access Initiative doesn't really have paid maternal leave, but Boko Haram does.
What? That would be the best, the graphic designer. But I mean, the point I'm getting at, Charles, is that it feels like, Boko Haram, ISIS, Al Qaeda, these are things that are marketed to us as consumers of news. And, I don't know, is Boko Haram the same as ISIS? It sounds to me from what you said like they have their own set of stuff. They don't want people getting involved in technology. They're kind of like the terrorist version of the Amish.
Well, I mean, there are elements of many religions that argue that God's word is laid out in whatever text you choose to pick, whether it's the Quran or the Old Testament or the New Testament or this book or that book. There are people who will say this is God. These are God's words, and this is God telling us, it's an instruction book. That's what you're supposed to do. Then you read the book, and it says, why don't you go kill anybody who doesn't believe in our religion? You have to do that. And you get into this frenzy saying, well, God says it in the book. It's right here in black and white. So I'm no expert on Boko Haram, but I do think that it remains a threat. And what was going on back in 2015 when I wrote that piece was diabolically bad. I mean, to gather up 800 plus Christian girls and, threaten that you were going to burn them to death unless they converted, that's something the United States should have a point of view about. And we didn't really do enough back then.
Yeah. And then Lana also tells us that Hillary Clinton had some kind of plan as the Secretary of State to, sell Stinger missiles to Boko Haram. Other people are telling us that Boko Haram, Al Qaeda, ISIS, Al Nusra, it's all the same. I mean, I agree with that. I think that this was all some sort of a way of getting this stuff moving through the Middle East and Africa so that they could, basically do this plan that Hillary wanted to do in Libya.
Well, it's not. We got to go further back. I mean, actually, and I like Ronald Reagan, but during the Soviet Union days, it was bright bulbs in the Reagan administration that said, well, the Soviet Union is more exposed to the issue of militant Islam than we are, so why don't we finance Osama bin Laden?
Nice.
Which is, I believe, what we did.
Yeah.
And so we have, for us, I think we're going a little bit off the main topic, but for people to say that we ought to hold in high esteem folks who've been in the State Department for a long period of time, or the CIA department, and that if they get cashiered for any reason, given their decades of service to this country, that's an affront to common decency. I mean, people in our State Department and our CIA and these security services, what have they gotten right since 1945?
CIA.
I mean, the CIA supposedly missed the likelihood that the Soviet Union would implode. I mean, they were caught flat-footed by that.
I thought they caused it.
Well, I don't know. And so anyway, I think instead of, and part of what we're seeing really across the spectrum in the primary season now is that the average person with good common sense gets the real truth. And the real truth is that the pointy heads, the bureaucrats, the longstanding residents of Washington, D.C., who are running these schemes around the world, they're idiots.
Yeah.
They don't know what they're doing in the main, and they need to be replaced. And frankly, if I had any advice for the president, I would be urging him to replace more people more aggressively and more decisively immediately.
I'm looking at one that he should replace immediately. Who is this? Edwin Meese?
That's Ed Meese. And that's a skinny version of Bill Barr?
Well, he's young, right?
But
It's
I mean,
amazing.
That's like half a bar.
Right. It's half a bar. He's got low bars. It's amazing how much bigger his head looks when his body is that small.
But he's quite a bit. I mean, honestly, he's like twice as wide now.
Well, he's gained a lot of weight.
I guess.
There was a pretty interesting, I don't know if you've seen this, but one of the biggest, what's the opposite of a fan? One of the smallest fans of William Barr is our buddy Larry Klayman. And
does not like William Barr.
Does not like William Barr. And so I created this pretty interesting, I can't seem to find the JPEG of it. I don't know if I can get this to, let's see if we can get this to come over. There we go.
Wow.
So it was William Barr taking a dive for Hillary Clinton.
And this is another swimsuit look of Hillary Clinton that never actually happened.
No, but it's sometimes good to see these. I mean, he's about to take a dive that's close to his fighting weight right there, Charles.
I hope not. I hope he's not going to take
So we were a little bit shorter today because we were anticipating having the Michael Smith segment, but of course, faulty internet in his remote location was very unreliable. Hopefully that will be back with us soon, and we will have a follow-up episode with Michael. Is there anything else that we wanted to discuss, Charles?
Just that I hope your viewers are supporting you actively.
What about will Donald Trump win the Indy 500 or whatever he's doing today?
Yeah, that's hilarious. The video's probably out by now, but because he was going around the...
People were talking about the crowd was cheering when Air Force One landed over there. I think it was the Daytona 500. That would be awesome if he won that too.
No, that's only the kind of thing that Obama gets. So Peace Prize, Grammy, Academy Award, whatever. Trump would have to earn the Daytona.
It's almost like, you remember when they had that thing on Saturday Night Live about the Bears and they were going to enter the Indy 500 in a bus with Mike Ditka driving? He will still win. Trump will win the Indy 500 even though he's not going and not racing in it.
That's pretty amazing.
But I like it that he's doing this kind of, I mean, look, this is smart because this is where, see that? Even the Daytona 500, millions of dollars and they got a vertical blanking problem. The fact that he goes there and, I don't think Obama would ever go to the Daytona 500. He probably considers people at the Daytona 500 beneath him.
He was too busy skeet shooting.
Well, he might shoot the people.
That
would be Dick Cheney.
Remember when he implausibly stated that one of the things he loved to do was go skeet shooting?
Was that where he was when Benghazi was under attack?
Probably.
I would believe it. Well, anyway, Charles, this has been another great episode of Sunday with Charles. This is one of our first live podcasts. So we are now live streaming on YouTube, Periscope, Facebook, DLive, VK.com, subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth, patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, Spreaker. We're then going on to a cadre of podcasting platforms. So it's a little bit of a, sort of wide open territory. We'll have to see if people enjoy listening to the podcast. I hope some of our new podcast listeners will become sponsors on Patreon or Subscribestar. And Charles, we'll be back Wednesday when you'll be closing in, no doubt.
I look forward to that, Jason.
Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.